Okay, so here's where I'm at with this at the moment. I've had some trials and tribulations, mostly because I'm trying to build this on top of a workbench or on the floor, and I don't have a fixture table. And the lack of a fixture table means it's very, very difficult to keep things flat and square when you weld them. And I kind of pitched a little hissy fit over the fact that the back part of my stand had a little bit of a rock back and forth to it. It was only about 1/8 of an inch, but I knew it was going to annoy me. So I tried to fix it, and of course I tried to bend it and I couldn't get it right. So then I tried to put a little weld material in a couple places to kind of make up the difference, and I couldn't seem to get it right that way either. So I wound up cutting one of the legs and flattening it down on the concrete floor. And fortunately for me, this is a pretty flat concrete floor. It's honestly the flattest thing I've got. So I got that to where I liked it, and then I build this front piece out here, and getting this square was pretty easy, really. And then I had the problem that now that I had gotten this flat, when I folded this forward, it went off to one side. It wasn't a lot, but you know what? The whole point of this thing is going to be to make square cuts. And if it's not going to cut square, why have I bothered doing this second half of this? So my first thought was to just kind of bend it and tweak it over a bit. And I tried doing that, and that didn't seem to work. And I finally got it, but then when I flattened it back down, it rocked again. And I'm telling you, I spent a half a day to get that right, when if I just had a fixture table, it would have been right to begin with. So that's, I think, as close as I'm going to need for my work. Now, the next thing I've got to do, I have to get the cross pieces for the vise. Let's see, the vise is going to go like that, isn't it? I've got to get cross pieces in for the vise. I have enough material, and I have to decide what height the vise needs to be for the saw to saw all the way through. Plus, I've noticed that it looks like the saw is going to want to contact the vise unless I move the vise off to one side. Plus, I have to figure out how I'm going to bolt the vise down to the material that I've got. And I could use some heavier wall angle iron for that, or I could just use some nut certs and put the nut certs into the thin wall tubing, and I may do that. I don't have any nut certs, riv nuts right at the moment, but they're not expensive. Plus, I want to be able to mount the vise in a secondary position to do 45s. And so I've got to have 2 separate mounting points, 4 holes each, and I'm going to do that as well. But for right now, I've got this part done. I'm pretty happy with it. I am back to work on the chop saw part of this build here this afternoon, and I had stopped down at the local hardware store to get 7/16 flange nuts, because I got the brilliant idea, since this tube is way too thin to thread and expect anything to hold, and since I don't have any rivet nuts or nut certs and can't seem to find any in the size I want locally, which is 7/16. 7/16, I don't know if you guys have done it before, but 7/16 can be hard to find. You won't find it in Lowe's and Home Depot and places like that, and even places like Ace Hardware, who have a great selection of fasteners, don't have a lot of 7/16, and they did not have 7/16 flange nuts, because the idea is just to weld a 7/16 flange nut upside down, and that'll give my vise a place to bolt. The extra hole is just to give some place for the extra threads to go. That's still hot. So I got regular 7/16 nuts and washers, and I made my own flange nuts, and yeah, they're still hot. I just kind of figured them as close to the center as I could get them, and just tack welded it in 4 or 5 places. And as soon as they cool down a little bit, I'm going to put them through the vise, bolt it to the vise, get the vise down, square it, and then tack the nuts in position, then pull it apart and weld it, and then my vise should be done for 90-degree, or at least my vise mounts should be done for 90-degree cuts. So let's do that now. So one thing I think I may have forgotten to show you was the little hook I made to hold the saw tight in, and it does hold it nice and tight. And I just made that out of some mild steel 1/4-inch rod that I had from another project. And I just bent it in the vise with a mallet. And you can see it kind of goes around the other side like that. And I just bent it so it fits and drilled a hole through my upright and found the wing nut that fit on the back, and that holds the saw really nice. Okay, so here's where I'm at right now. I've got my homemade flange nuts made. The holes are on, and what I did was I just kind of bolted them up to the bottom of the vise, and it's just sitting on the square tube with the excess bolt length down in the hole. I just want to make sure everything is square, and then I'm going to tack weld it. So let's take a look. And remember, square is kind of adjustable because I do have a little wiggle room from side to side, and if I'm within 1/16 of an inch, I'm a happy camper. Now also, this piece of angle, this was cut on the steel shop saw, so it's what their saw thinks is square. And I don't know, I'm pretty damn happy with that. I got enough wiggle room one way or the other that, oh, and will it cut all the way through? Let's check that out. Will it cut all the way through? Hello? Sorry if I'm shaking. Yes, it will cut all the way through. I'll probably put some stops on it at some point, but for right now, I'm pretty happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the welder. I'm going to tack those nuts. I'm going to take it all apart and then I'm going to weld it. Okay, I now have the vise solidly mounted and it's ready to go. I'm going to cut some 1/2-inch pieces of this 1-inch square tubing to make some feet, and I want 8 of those. And you know, it just dawned on me, why did I make that so long? I could have ended it right there, and I still might. I can't think of any overpowering reason why it needed to be that long. It was never going to tip over forward, I don't think. I don't know, got to think about that. I can't think of any overpowering reason to shorten it now that it's that length. Okay, my first few cuts, it cut without a problem, but it wasn't cutting it straight. And then I noticed, it dawned on me that you're going to have to square the blade up to the workpiece every time you use it. Not every time from cut to cut to cut, but between when you attach everything if it's been in storage. And to do that, you're going to have to square the vise up, or excuse me, the vise up with the blade, with the vise doing this so it lines up with the blade. And you're also going to have to square the blade up this way. And that's done pretty simply by putting something like this speed square there, looking at the blade, loosening this, tipping it back and forth. And I've already got an idea about how to put a bubble level here, which is something I want to do even for handheld use because I can't cut anything straight to save my life. And putting a light underneath to light the work surface up, which is just going to be as easy as sticking on a battery-powered button light, which I have some coming. But I think I have it pretty well squared up now. Let's try one more cut and let's see if we have it cutting. It doesn't, you know, I don't expect perfect from something like this, you know, made in my garage. I do, however, would like it to be good. Like it to be good enough. And for me, good enough is if it's within welding gap, easy welding gap filling, I'm good with it. So let's try one more. Here we go. Certainly is easy to do. Let's take a look at that. Let's see how square that is. That's a hell of a lot better. I don't know how many cuts you can make for it's going to come out of square. Let me see if I can get this in the camera here. Is that perfect? No, but I can easily weld that gap up. I mean, we're under a 1/16 off there. That may not even be a 32nd off. That is very good. So, there we have it. This was a lot of work, especially when it's 110 out. No doubt, a lot of work. I'm going to cut these 1/2-inch feet. I'm going to get the 1/2-inch feet put on it. I'm probably going to 3D print out a TPU, some little plugs to go in the bottom of my feet. That's going to be another leveling nightmare. Okay, I just cut all 8 of those pieces in rapid succession, or you know, what's rapid for me these days? I don't do much anything rapid anymore. But also it got a little fiddly toward the end because you see how short my piece got. That's all of that tubing I have left. I also 3D printed a bunch of little end caps. This is just blue TPU. If you're unfamiliar with 3D printing, TPU is a flexible, you know, soft rubbery-like filament we can use in 3D printing. You've probably had a phone case made out of TPU. If it's really thin, it is, you know, flexible like cooked spaghetti, but once you start getting it thicker like this, it becomes pretty solid. See, I can squeeze it. Okay, there are the feet welded on with the little rubber end caps I printed on. Let's flip it over and see how it works out. Well, getting the feet on it was a big quality of life improvement for me because now you don't have to worry about every little thing on the bench making it rock and roll all over the place. As long as the feet are down, you can have crap all over the bench like I normally do, and without the thing being a rocking horse. Plus, it now no longer tries to walk around on you because the pivot point's rubbing against the bench when you pivot it. So that really made an improvement. The little light to light the workspace up, that made a big improvement as well. And the only really thing left to do that I can see is to get the thing, to get some kind of facility to cut 45s, and unfortunately I'm out of that 1x1 steel tube now, so I've got to pull the vise up and kind of get it located where I want it. Okay folks, I think I'm going to split this video here. It's getting to be an unmanageable length, and I'll be back in the next one and we'll finish this up. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.